We've turned our attention to land transportation. Now, you recall that all through the period of the lockdown in Nigeria and restriction on interstate movement, most land transport operators could not operate. But now, with that ease put in place by the federal government through the Presidential Task Force, uh, cars, buses, vehicles are now able to move from state to state. But how well are they observing the protocols and guidelines that have been put in place by the Ministry of Transport through the Presidential Task Force? Well, we're joined now by Valentine Uduebo. Valentine Uduebo is the public transport PRO of the Public Transport Owners Association of Nigeria, and he is also being joined by Dr. CHIDI ANYAEGBU, who is the executive chairman of one of the popular luxurious bus companies in Nigeria, Chisco. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Uduebo and Dr. CHIDI ANYAEGBU.
Thank you.
Right. So let me begin with you, Valentine Uduebo. What exactly is the situation at the moment with public transportation, especially in terms of interstate movement, as far as the protocols and guidelines are concerned?
Yeah, as it is at the moment, following the guidelines of Federal Ministry of for the Ministry of Transport, being supervised by Task Force on COVID-19, we started work.
Mr. Uduebo, if you would please turn down the volume of your television set, completely turn down the volume of your television set so that we can hear you, because there is a howl back here in the studio.
Yeah, yeah. Am I clear now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, like I did say, we started just barely about 2 days back, following the guidelines from the Ministry of Transport as supervised by the COVID-19 task force. And before then, I would briefly say the industry, the transportation sector has been in almost a collapse situation. But as it is now, we are gradually picking up businesses from wherever most of our states ended. And it's a very, very regrettable situation because most of the companies I've visited are quite, some of our companies, some of our brothers have shut down because very many of them cannot start the business now. But for the policies brought by Federal Ministry of Works that has been supervised by COVID-19 task force, of course, we are very much aware of it. We operated when Ebola was in town, and we successfully collaborated with the federal government to ascertain that Ebola was kicked out. And we are very much ready to follow in strict terms the policies and strategies and modalities set in place by Federal Ministry of Transport to ascertain that COVID-19 does not spread beyond its present status.
So, for instance, have the transport owners decontaminated their various terminals? Have they decontaminated the buses and the taxis that ply the routes? And are they observing the protocols as far as in terms of numbers of passengers that can be taken at any one time?
Yes, in strict adherence to the guidelines set in place by Ministry of Transport. Pretona, we are largely the body of all transporters in Nigeria. And let me reiterate, let me affirm to you that we have a task force also working side by side with government and federal safety to ascertain that no terminal in Nigeria, none of our members will start operation without the provisions of hand washing soaps, sanitizers, and gun temperatures. And the terminals themselves must, as a matter of honesty, must be disinfected. Fumigation processes must be adhered to. The buses are clean. We have set very many of our members who are task force on this issue to various terminals of our members to ascertain that any defaulters will be dealt with. The terminal will be shut down. We shut one down about yesterday when we saw a bus that loaded above 9, because the federal government has said we should load 50%, 2221. We makes a 15-seater bus to now load 9. So we are strictly following these policies tooth to tooth to ascertain that, because this COVID-19 is something that we should handle with kid gloves. We must, of course, to at every level of reasoning, ascertain that these policies are adhered to. Now, when it comes to loading of these buses, we do 221. Before it was a 15-seater bus, but right now it's been gone to 9 persons in a bus. And the bus must not be, the air conditioning system must not be used, because, of course, you know, COVID-19 habitates in a cold environment. So, of course, when there's a free flow of air, the tendency of spreading it is very, very minimal. However, let me reiterate that the processes or the symptoms of COVID-19 is so synonymous with that of Ebola. Is the provision of hand sanitizers, provision of hand gun, and sanitizing your environment. These are things we had kept in place even before the lockdown was opened. We had held meetings at various levels of executives to ascertain that as soon as government lift this ban, we'll be head on ready to, of course, get back into business.
All right, let's turn our attention to Dr. Chisco, who's a transport owner himself. Has it been difficult, Dr. Chidi ANYAEGBU, for the luxurious bus owners, for instance, to adhere to these protocols and guidelines? Because, for instance, the whole question of physical distancing, how do you do that in a bus?
Thank you very much. It's a thing that nobody can. We are already doing that in our own company, and I'm sure of our members have complied to that. The distance and social distance, and fumigating the buses, and the washing instruments available in all terminals, and equipment. We are doing all that.
Are you removing some seats from the buses, or you are leaving some of the seats unoccupied during such journeys?
Are you removing some seats from the buses, or you are leaving some of the seats unoccupied during such journeys?
Dr. ANYAEGBU, please turn down the volume of your television set completely, because we are getting a feedback here.
The bus to convey our passengers.
Dr. ANYAEGBU, I hope you can hear us. Talk to us directly. Do not wait to hear the feedback from the television before you talk to us. Please go ahead.
Talk to us directly. Do not wait to hear.
We have complied and making sure bus capacity, and making sure that we provide bus capacity, and making sure that we provide sanitizers.
You should turn down the volume. The echo in. You should turn down the volume.
Dr. ANYAEGBU, will come back to you very shortly, but before we do that, please tune down the volume of your television set completely. But for now, let's get back to Mr. Valentine Uduebo, who is the PRO, Public Transport Owners Association of Nigeria. I was asking Dr. ANYAEGBU whether or not the operators are removing some of the seats in the buses, or they are leaving them unoccupied during trips?
Okay, yes, you know the way the buses are being customized from the factory. It will be less likely to be possible for us to detach a seat. But of course, we have our stickers. The first one, like if in the front, one person behind the driver, another in between two and three, it's completely flat seat. That's the social distances. And in luxurious buses and in buses, the same thing is applicable to both luxurious and the mini buses and even the Sienna. Sienna does 7, 3, 3, 1, but now we're doing 2, 2, 1. While the luxurious buses do 59, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, but now we're doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 1 on what side. So we are strictly making sure that both the luxurious buses and the mini buses do, as a matter of importance, comply in strict terms to the COVID-19 policy on social distancing. Of course, yes, we are doing it.
But you do know that when the buses leave the terminals, there's nobody monitoring what the drivers do on the way. So how do you deal with that? There are situations where they just pick up other passengers on the way in order to make some extra cash.
Yes, I would clearly want to disagree with that. Why? Because we are private owners. We are not managers. There are ways we have fashioned ourselves that we are an association, and we have tax force on the road. And before, the primary thing we do is we address the customers. You see, we need to let you be conscious of the damage of COVID-19. So we must give you a pep talk on the reasons why you should maintain social distances, on the reasons why we have our phone numbers there. Call us at any time our driver stops indiscriminately on the road. And it's also at risk to just pick some of the road, more so in this situation where the disease it's pandemic. So I want to say that the journey actually leaves the terminal, and there's less likely reason for our drivers to pick anybody on the road, except of course maybe they are the unknown operators, not PTONA members. We wouldn't do that.
All right, let's get back to Dr. CHIDI ANYAEGBU if he's ready for us now. And to know whether or not the transport owners themselves have put in place any other structures to ensure that the operations of public transport, interstate especially, is stress-free, and people can have some confidence that when they travel in your buses, they are not at risk of contracting the disease.
All the buses, to comply with COVID-19, all the buses have been fumigated and disinfected, each of every trip, and even before you enter, we make sure that their temperature is checked, and we're ready to make sure. We have been doing it social. We keep to social distance, and to make sure we have been doing our buses have internal built cameras. Our head of operations and operation team are also checking to make sure that our drivers comply with that. Head of operations.
All right. Has this process driven up the cost of transportation in terms of how much passengers pay from one point to another?
By a 15-seater bus does 50% now, which is 9-seater. So the same fuel that we take the bus for 15-seater, we also take the people of 9-seater back to Onitsha. Before the COVID-19, we had 15-seater bus that we do about 25 to 30,000 to get fuel from Lagos to Owerri. Now that we have 9-seater, the amount of money that the bus was using before the COVID-19 is still the amount of money the bus will be using during the COVID-19 and after to the same destination. So how do we do it? It is very obvious that some of the charges, the extra 6 persons that are not in our bus, some of the charges will be incorporated into the 9 persons. I will clearly tell you, this is the reason why we're bringing federal government in the play pattern of game. Because if these things are not properly addressed, the common man will be suffering for it. The fuel price has jumped back to 143, 143, which obviously means that we are going to be buying fuel for 143. We are carrying less passenger, 9 instead of 15. I mean, if it was 4,000 before, obviously it's going to be like 8,000. Even at 8,000, we are not meeting up because it is 9. And a lot of people will come. You see, the movement of people has been grossly reduced because of the inflation, because of the increase in fare. And we cannot, of course, collect what we are collecting down or collect it now. That means how do we get fuel into our vehicle? So it's a chaotic matter. And I will not tell you that I will not change figures. Of course, there's an increment in fare fee. Yeah, there is.
Are you deploying more vehicles on the roads now in order to meet up the demands for public transport right now?
As it is, like I did say much earlier at the program commenced, I told you some of our members are shutting down. We have buses, over 100 buses that have been shut down for well over 3 months. Jumping back into business in just the daytime cannot be very possible. During the COVID-19 time, we could not send our mechanics to our workshop to start work because that would mean we are violating government policies for people to move around. So we have to wait for the lockdown to be called up before our mechanics moving. So a lot of people don't even have money. We are, like my famous motto now, we are looking for bank loans that can make us jump back. We have buses over 100 that are packed, but the few ones that, of course, that are the new ones we bought before the COVID-19 on the road. If we are deploying buses on the road, but the function of all deploying buses on the road is also a function of some support from the government.
All right.
That is the only way we see that.
Yes.
Dr.
ANYAEGBU, on a final note, what do you see as the future of public transportation in Nigeria during this COVID era and after?
Yes, thank you very much. There must be a government assistance on this at this time to aid the transporters. The depreciation of buses these days and the high cost of duties, high cost of spare parts, foreign exchange from 360 to 460. They're all very, very is a big factor. There's a lot of double taxation on buses, and knowing fully well we are serving the medium class. We're not serving the big man in the country. The people we are serving their salary have not been increased. They are in the same they are earning the same amount. It's always very difficult to increase the services that this type of people use. So if government did not come to the end of transporters, I can assure you that the transporters will not find it easy. And knowing fully well that the masses of which the government is for are on the road, they use transport services more. That is where the masses is.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Dr. CHIDI ANYAEGBU is the executive chairman of Chisco, popular luxurious transport service in Nigeria, and he's been joined by Valentine Uduebo, who is the public relations officer, Public Transport Owners Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen.